Minnesota Department of Transportation is looking for funding in the billions of dollars in order to back its projects. MnDOT's leadership says the money is greatly needed, and they gathered with government officials in the Northwest Minnesota region today to figure out answers. Jackson Bruner has the story.
Many of the busiest roads in Minnesota were opened as early as the 1950s. In the past, MnDOT has relied on general funds from the state legislature to maintain them, but the money hasn't always been there.
When you have periods of deficits, which in our state we have had, then if there's an economic downturn, then seems transportation funding is one of the first things that gets cut.
Friday's brainstorming session with interested parties in Region 2 was all about a long-term fix, a more stable source of money.
We will probably have half as much funds in the matter of 3 years in our state highway construction budget, simply because our funding vehicles, gas tax and registration fees and motor vehicle sales tax, just isn't keeping up with the need.
As our pavements get worse, as they age, our ability to predict gets harder, just because it does. They change quicker. So we have those impending needs. We have some safety improvements that we need to do.
Commissioner Zelli says 2 answers have been proposed, from Governor Mark Dayton's office and from the House GOP. Dayton wants over $10 billion to go toward transportation in the next 10 years, with over 2/5 coming from a tax on gas. The House plan offers $7 billion in the same time frame, over half of which would come from the state general fund. And for MnDOT to receive any funds, it's likely that more taxes will have to be involved.
A registration fee was part of the governor's proposal. The House proposed a sales tax on auto parts that is currently in the general fund. That certainly is something that's on the table.
Nobody wants to pay more taxes, but we've reached the point we have to ask, what are we willing to pay for? Because without additional revenue, we will be seeing an impact.
MnDOT projects that without new funding, nearly 25% of state roads in 10 years won't have any service life left, adding more urgency to the need for a final compromise when the legislature meets next March.
Hopefully we'll come together in the session as a way for both parties to come together, find a compromise, and a way to provide long-term sustainable funding for something that will not get any cheaper. In fact, the longer we wait, the more expensive it becomes later years.
In Bemidji, Jackson Bruner, Lakeland News.
MnDOT estimates an $18 billion gap over the next 20 years if local roads and bridges across Minnesota aren't funded.
If you've enjoyed this segment of Lakeland News, please consider making a tax-deductible contribution to Lakeland Public Television.